We need a intro. Oh, we're live.
Good
Hi.
evening. I am
Okay.
Ashley from Last Call Catfishing.
I'm Julie from Running Gun Catfishing, and today we have
River Lunacy, James with River Lunacy.
Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll give people just a minute to hop on.
While we wait, I'll adjust some things.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can see more with this. You don't get to see much on a phone, I guess.
Yeah, and right now we're still waiting on people to hop in. So let's see. Let's see if we can.
There
We
we
got a
go.
couple people in here.
So if you guys wouldn't mind, comment on here and tell us where you're watching from, like which page you're watching from, so we can make sure the comments and everything are working. And I'm pretty sure everybody missed the intro because nobody was on here when we did that. So we'll do that again. I'm Ashley from Last Call Catfishing.
I'm Julie with Running Gun Catfishing, and today we have
James with River Lunacy.
So welcome you all. We're glad you're here. This is our 4th episode, right, Jules?
number 4.
Talking about conservation. So we're excited to have James with us tonight. So if you guys have questions for him, be sure to pop them in the comments down here. I do just want to start by saying that we talked with ODNR this week. There were some questions about like tournament fishing as anglers, like what we can do. And according to our marine biologist with ODNR, less than 5 minutes is what it takes for a catfish to have detrimental effects from being out of the water. So please keep that in mind as we start our tournament fishing seasons, taking pictures and stuff. Try to get the fish back in the water as soon as you can. Keep them in water. Do drive through weigh-ins as often as you can. That's the best option to keep our fish alive. We can't physically get on here and talk about conservation and what we can do if we're not going to do it ourselves. So,
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Hi, Tony. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us, guys.
So, James, how long have you been catfishing in our
Tony.
area?
Hi, Michael.
Well, let's see. I started really kind of got real interested probably around 13 or so, and I'm closer to 50 than 40. So that'll give you an idea how long. I'd say the river hard probably the last probably 20 years, maybe a little more. Also, the Licking River, which is in our area, that was a place that I really got really into it, and then carried that on out through the Ohio River. Fished some in the Ohio, but really got into it heavy in the Licking. It was pretty interesting. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Would you say that how was commercial fishing when you first started fishing compared to what it is now in your area?
Well, I mean, I fished the bank a lot for a long time, and I still do sometimes. And I can tell you that a long time ago, 15, 20 years ago, some of these places I would fish on the bank, you could go, and even that Licking River, which is connected with the Ohio River here in our area. You could go there. I mean, you get skunked some here and there, but you would catch, I mean, on a bad day, 3, a regular, maybe 7 fish, a good night, 20, maybe 30 fish sometimes. And that was 15, 20 years ago. And just to give you an idea, so I was 18 years old when I really started hitting that Licking River really hard. And we were catching enormous channel cats. Biggest one I weighed out of there was 20 pounds. But on a regular, you would not catch one under 7 pounds, and you would have mixed in flatheads and blue cats. And then what I would do, I learned that when the river would come up, the big blue cats would get in there. So I would start hitting it every May. That would be about the time of year that our water, you can count on, it's probably going to be a little high. There's going to be some kind of period of time where the Ohio River is going to hit 40 foot, and that backs up that river. And got a chance in this area that I like to fish. That was always good to me. And for 3 years in a row, I would go down there and would come up almost empty-handed. And that's from going there in the spring all the years before and catching 2 and 3 50-pound blue cats just in that month, including several big flatheads. So that shows me right there, just in that time period, how it just kind of started getting depleted, or what's going on. I didn't think a whole lot of it at the moment. I just kind of said, you know what, something's changed. I'm not going to go there anymore. And so I stopped buying that license and going there early, and I just quit doing that. But then also, even, a story like this house, I've been here for, I don't know, 13, 12, maybe 12 years, something like that, 12 or 13 years. And there's a park that's pretty close to me. I live really close to the Ohio River. And I started fishing that park when I moved in here. That was 12 years ago, okay? Mm-hmm. So for several years, I would go down that park and fish on the bank just to blow off some steam after work for 3 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, whatever. But I would just take like a little handful of bait, enough to get me till dark. Park closed at dark, get off work at 3. So that gives you an idea how much time I would spend there. But for several of them years when I first moved in here, I would go down there and I would catch 3 to 7 fish every single time, almost every time, between hybrids, hybrid stripers, blue catfish, and flatheads, and occasionally a pretty big channel cat. 13 pounds is a pretty nice. That's a pretty large channel catfish. And these last couple of years, just the last 2 or 3 years, has gotten to where I don't even want to go there and waste my time. I might get one fish every once in a great while. That's gives you an idea of just even the last 3 or 4 years of how something can change. Now, people are going to sit there and say, well, the water changes and the bottom of the river changes. Yeah, sometimes. But all these places, including another place that I fish sometimes at nighttime on the bank, same thing. I mean, you could sit there and catch 15-pound blue cats, 7 of them in a night. 10 years ago, you go try to do that now, it's probably not going to happen unless it's the fall and the skipjack are right there and everything's perfect. But it's like that for several of these different places. Used to be you'd be able to go bank fishing, and you could have fun bank fishing, and I get it, And some of the guys that I've had some comments on, I put some petitions up here recently, and there was some things said about, there's nowhere to fish, and that's, there's not a lot of places to fish in our area on the bank. There's not. There's a lot of oil plants around here, and there's private property and no trespassing, blah, blah, blah. But there are some places to fish. But it is getting to where it's really hard to catch fish on the bank unless you're just at the right time in the right place. Now, they're changing. They're definitely.
Do you ever see the commercial guys when you're bank fishing?
I have seen them fly by, and I've seen them yank a couple nets up. A few years ago, I witnessed one. I'll fish from Markland Dam all the way to Meldal Dam and some other areas. But one day I was fishing out in Indiana, me and my dad, at a creek mouth, and I watched them run down the Kentucky side. We sat there for a long time, and the guy on the front of that boat was throwing one of them grappling hooks, pulling up, trying to catch a line so he could pull the hoop net up. And I watched him do about 3 or 4. And I kind of stopped watching him because I was getting so disgusted and pretty upset. And my dad's like, ah. I said, well, I don't want to sit here and watch this. Well, don't watch it. Well, how do you not watch it? They're right across from us, and they're running all the way down the bank doing it. I mean, it must have been every 50 to 100 yards, something like that. It was amazing. I couldn't believe he had that many nets in there. Now, I don't know. I mean, that was some years ago, not that long ago, because I'm pretty sure it was in my white boat, and I've only had that 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to tell you, I seen him pull up probably 15 nets just in that one area. I got pissed off and went upstream up into the Lawrenceburg area. That was down in the Aurora area. I went up in the Lawrenceburg area and found a new spot to fish, so I didn't have to watch. Well, guess what? Here comes 30 minutes later. You just watch him. He's going all the way up that Kentucky bank doing it. I'm like, wow. He had been at it that long. Over an hour, probably, moved all the way up right there where I was at. We yanked the stuff up and left. I said, I'm done.
Yeah.
We have it, and we have it right here, literally in my backyard. 13-minute drive, like I said, to that park. I mean, I'm sure it's all over right there. I don't see everything, but I've got a bunch of friends on the river, we're all locals around here, and everybody keeps an eye on things. And
we are from Central Ohio, so we're about 3 hours away from the Ohio River, and the closest river to us is the Muskingum River. And we found out, it's probably been a month ago now, that there's a pay lake literally less than like 5 miles from the river down there, and they never used to be there. It's a new one. It just opened up, and like one of the guys we know that fishes that area, he said it makes him sick every time he drives by it. But what are you going to do? Ohio doesn't have any regulations. It's a good way for them to line their pockets.
Yeah. Ohio's full of them. I mean, they're in Kentucky and some other places too. But I think now I'm not 100% sure, but where they kind of originated from. But I know it's like a freaking tradition out here. I mean, it's just buck wild crazy.
Do you think that if people were more educated about like how the fish are treated there and what goes on at these pay lakes and how they're getting these fish, that people might think twice about fishing a pay lake?
I think some people will. I've had people comment on my channel, fishing, watching videos about wanting to learn how to fish the river, and they've said that to where they're like, I want to learn how to do this or do that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to fish the lakes anymore, because they'll just catch that comment where sometimes I throw it in there, and I really need to do better about it, to be honest with you. But a lot of times I'll make a jab at the end of when I'm putting a fish back. Generally, it's a pretty good one, and I'd say, put her back where she belongs, right here in the Ohio River.
Yeah.
And most people know what that means.
Yeah, I know I did a live today on TikTok, because we haven't really talked much on TikTok about it, but I had like 4 or 5 people on there that were telling me the same thing. Like they're trying to get Indiana to get on board and Kentucky to get on board. So like people are listening. We might not be seeing it on here every week, like the comments and stuff, because it's usually the same folks that we have on here in our tight knit little circle, but people are watching and they're listening. So I feel like the more we do this, the more voices we get out there, we're eventually going to get something done.
it's definitely devastating. Before you know it, it's going to be I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's already been very destructive out here in my area. I fish really hard, and I don't think I'm bad at it, so, and I do a lot of different techniques, and I mean, I go hard. I'll go to work at 5 in the morning, and I'll work all day. I'll fish all night. Sometimes I don't even leave the river till 12 the next day, looking for that magical little time period, but I can do that 2 times a week or go all day long from 6 in the morning, whenever that sun comes up, till that sun is on its way down. I'll spend all those hours out there, and I might not, I have some days that are pretty wild, and I do pretty good. We have some of those, but we have a lot of them that we do not. Right now is one of them times where things are a little rough. Plus, we're in transition some here, and our weather is all crazy. I'm sure everybody can agree with that. But I'll spend, just in this area alone, with the amount of time that I've spent on the river, 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. And then all those hours, I've pulled 3 fish last year over 40 pounds in just this one area. And that's not right. That's not right. Now, a 40-pound fish out here, 40 to 50-pound fish is a monster fish, considered a monster fish. And really, it's really not a giant monster fish. We call them a fish of a lifetime out here.
Yep.
When someone catches one that I know that catches one, I say that's a fish of a lifetime. Some people don't catch a fish that's 20 or 30 pounds, which is true probably almost anywhere. But when you put that kind of time in, and I only catch 3 fish that are over 40 pounds here, and and I know the area pretty well, and I stay on these fish. That's why I'm out there all the time, so I know what to do.
Yeah. There's a comment on here. It says to stop the big money tournaments, and I'm not sure if they're referring to all tournaments, but I know that there is a big pay lake tournament next weekend in Ohio that has a $99,000 payout 2 days in a row.
Wow.
So you can imagine the amount of fish that are being stocked in that lake right now.
Wow. Did you say 99,000?
$99,000. He's advertising it on Facebook as the biggest catfish pay lake tournament in the country.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
It's scary.
It really is.
The amazing part that I don't understand also now is, like, there's supposed to be, what, 1 fish a day at 35 inches? That's what I believe.
Yeah, 1 blue and 1 flat.
And how many days? So this is where it gets weird. And, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that there's a lot of things that aren't getting tracked. I can tell you that. But 20,000 pound fish. Think of how many 35-inch fish. How many days would that really take?
Yeah. I know there's been quite a few people that have went back and forth with ODNR and the Department of Agriculture here in Ohio, because you ask ODNR who regulates pay lakes, and they say, well, that's the Department of Agriculture. And then you call the Department of Agriculture and they say, well, there's no revised code for that. We don't do that. So there's literally nobody right now. They're just doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Chase, didn't used to be that way. You could blind drift down the middle of the edge of the channel 15 to 20 years ago and smoke 15 to 40 pound fish. Numerous, but the past times. Hopefully one day we get that back. Yes, hopefully soon.
Absolutely. Just gotta keep talking about it. Get the attention from the right people. You guys, can I apologize really quick? We are on vacation and that's why I'm on mute. I feel so rude. I have nowhere else to put him. But he's been in here all day. So I'm so sorry. I feel terrible that I have to keep on you. He's jumping on me. So I just want to apologize to you and to our viewers that I feel so rude.
He wants to be a star.
Anyway.
Yeah. Just pick him up and put him on camera.
Yeah. All right. He just wants the attention. I think he's like, what are we doing, Mom? Here we go. You just
Here we go. There's Jack.
Okay.
Have you had any issues with the commercial guys being rude to you, James?
I've not really encountered too many of them. I tried to kind of stay away. I mean, I had encountered a couple guys a year or so ago. I would say I was probably more the one that was rude at the boat ramp in Indiana, to be honest with you. And they knew who I was. They definitely knew who I was.
I know Julie and them, they've had that issue out there where they're at with the commercial guys.
Just one person. So, well, actually, that's not true. One that was verbally threatening, but then one that was trying to basically get into Charlie's lines and was going to cut him. And luckily he didn't, but, it was just, we've had, I guess, 2 different occasions where people have just kind of been hateful, but they think that we call on them, and we haven't called, yet on anybody, but people have in our area, and we finally have DNR coming around for the first time since we've been here. And I'm thankful for that, but they think because we pleasure fish or, sport fish. I'm talking, sir. Here, go. Sorry. Anyway, that we're the ones calling, but that's not the case. It's actually other commercial fishermen who are following, I don't know, maybe better along the lines of the laws, and they're tired of that, overfishing problem that's they're calling too. So
yeah, I can see them. I can see some of them doing that are following the rules because they're taken from them.
Yeah.
I can see.
Exactly. It's not
got having a little war out there. There's a few of the lakes that I know that come out this way, and I can imagine that some of them guys kind of bunt heads for some of the areas.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had a close encounter with one last fall. I want to say that this was actually a spoonbill guy though, and that burned my whistle. And it kind of ruined that night, but it didn't just ruin that night. It ruined my next fishing trip because I was going in the dark, and he had buoys up, but it's dark out and you can't see them buoys, especially if you're going to just start drift fishing. Like I like to do a lot of times at nighttime. I do some suspend drifting, and you can't see them buoys from the back of the boat. If the front of the boat, but this guy was laying them out. I told my friend, I said, man, is he following us? What is he doing? Well, then he throws one out, and then he runs it out and drops the buoy away. Well, he covered the whole section that I was going to actually go back up and run back over. So he totally screwed me out of my whole drift. You know what I mean? It was like, well, that's over. Might as well just go. And they're quick at it too. I mean, he followed me. He was literally 100 yards in front of me, dropping these nets left and right, and I mean, that's another thing with those guys too. I don't know a whole lot about them, but
was that in Kentucky?
Kentucky side, yeah. Kentucky. Yeah.
I know some of the conservation guys, like Justin and them, are watching. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Kentucky DNR told me that those nets, when they apply as a commercial fisherman, they're given metal like tags that have their name and like their ID number on it that are supposed to be placed on the net every 50 feet so that they're marked. So if you see those nets and you don't see the tag, they want us to call, but you're not allowed to touch their net. They told me that that is, we can get in trouble for that. So it's kind of a catch 2020 thing. You see them and you call, but you don't really have any proof because you're not allowed to touch them because then you're tampering with their net. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
How would you-
tricky. Yeah.
You have to get really close.
Yeah. Like when they get caught in your propeller and
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the spoonbill guys will have buoys. They'll have a big white balloon. Usually, from what I see, they will have a couple white balloons. So you'll see a straight line as you're going along. So you'll know. Maybe some people are not going to know, and it's not going to be good for them. Luckily, a lot of those guys that do it in our area right here will actually they'll come back and get them pretty quickly. I think they kind of know better that they don't want to leave them in our area here too long.
yeah.
But
There's a big complaint here.
I don't know if the hoop nets have to have anything because like I've seen them,
Several of them.
a rope running down from a tree or attached, to the bank somehow coming through. And I know what that is, especially after seeing that guy run down that bank with that grappling hook pulling him up. He was well. I don't know all the details on how you're supposed to do all that, but I mean, then.
What did Justin say about the tags? Them tags, you almost have to pull the net to see them.
Yeah, I was wondering how that would be possible to see, especially a metal tag that's almost similar to the color of the water. How would you see it?
Yeah.
Without pulling it. So
now, Justin, are you talking about the spoonbill nets or the hoop net?
Yeah, because I asked them, I'm like, well, I can see why the Kentucky guys are so upset about this, like you're telling us to call if we see this stuff, but we can't physically touch it because you're saying it's tampering with somebody else's property. So there's no way to catch them. Yeah, and his suggestion was to just call and report it.
I called last fall, which I think I made the mistake by calling Ohio DNR. And so I called and this and that and ended up having to send an email, long story, but they did reply back, oh, we appreciate it, but if you want to give us an exact location, I told them, like, look, it's close to a creek mouth too. And I know for a fact that them nets are not supposed to be around creek mouths. I do know that.
So Justin said hoop nets and trot lines, you have to have gear tags with name on them, but they don't have to be marked with a buoy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't think that the hoop nets or trot nets had to have trot lines had to have a buoy on them.
It's tricky. Like, I wish they would just all get together and have the same laws. Instead of saying oh, well, Kentucky, this is on Kentucky water, you have to call Kentucky, and then you call Ohio, and they're like, nope, that's not us.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Was we appreciate it, and we want to look into it and this and that, but if it was on this line here, oh, it was Kentucky side, well, we'll pass the information over to them. And I'm like, okay, yeah, the story's not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were all over the place. there was just a pile of nets. We couldn't even fish. A bunch of us fished this one whole section, and that whole bank all through there was just covered in them. Plus, like I said, it was right at one of them was right there, the front of it and the back end of the creek mouth. So I'm sure that that's illegal.
Yeah. And I mean, I hear this so much. Like, the more we do this and the more people we talk to, like, everybody says that. Like, we call Kentucky, we tell them, and they don't do anything. So I called Kentucky and I asked them that. Like, you know, the guys that we're talking to are telling us they're reporting this stuff to you and nothing's getting done. So they feel like they're not being heard. And if you want to mend that relationship, like, you can't just cater to the commercial guys in the pay lake. Like, you have to take into consideration that, like, recreational anglers spend a lot of time and money, you know, to support this sport. And he's like, well, we can't be everywhere. We have 120 counties and we don't have 120 officers. So we rely on the public to let us know when these things happen. But, you know, then we talk to more people and they tell us the same thing, that nothing's being done when they report it.
Yeah.
Jeremy Chase.
Yeah, I was just going to click that one.
We called last week on Kentucky violations and multiple Kentucky officers contacted us back. Multiple. They are looking into it, many things, but advised us, please call. They will investigate even if something doesn't happen right away, but keep calling. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, that's good.
Justin said that there is a state line on your GPS that tells you which state you're in.
All right.
I didn't know that. That's new. I did not realize there was a state line in the water.
I believe Kentucky owns more
Mm-hmm.
of the Ohio River, which is, I don't know.
Unfortunate.
All that, but yeah. You can see it when you're out there on your boat. You can see that line. It's neat.
Jeremy says 2 guys last week, they both jumped on it right away. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, when I call, like, if I have not gotten a hold of somebody directly and had to leave a message, they've called me back within 24 hours. And I called the other day about a licensing question, since the reciprocal agreement isn't in effect for our local tournament director. And he forwarded, it was the fishing director, and he forwarded my message on to a game warden. And that game warden called me, and, like, we had a pretty long conversation, and they seem super nice and polite. So I really think that the more we do this and just keep telling people, like, have people like Jeremy that are, you know, telling us, like, they're calling you back. It's not just me and Julie on here saying to call. Like, people are actually calling and they're getting a response. So
yeah. I did see a game warden today. Actually, I was at Tanner's Creek boat ramp. And he
That's
just
good.
stared at me. He'd come through.
I'll let him
I mean, he did come through and swung through there real quick. I don't know what he was looking for, but he was there at the ramp. I was hoping he was going to stop. I had the hood up on this truck, having some transmission issues. I was going to ask him to go get me a bottle of transmission fluid, cut my fishing trip short. It's been a fun day. But I have seen a couple of Indiana game wardens out. I saw this one at the boat ramp, and I have not seen one on the water yet this year. I fish all year round, all the time. Last year, I saw one game warden. I want to say it might have been a Kentucky here in Cincinnati. And then over at that park where I live, which would be Ohio, they do run through there, which, I mean, I guess they have to at a park, but they will. They do come through there quite a bit, looking around. But I don't.
I know, like, the different districts, like the ODNR, like, they're very much aware of this podcast and us talking about this, because when I talk to the different people there, they're like, oh yeah, we've heard of you. And I'm like, well, I hope that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that, you know, they're just as excited to have people that are willing to put the time and effort in to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because they want to do their job, but their hands are kind of tied with the whole Pay Lake situation until we get legislatures to listen to that. So if we can do our part to be respectful to them and thank them when we see them and not just be like, oh, it's the ODNR again. You know, like we want to see them. We need to see them on the water. They need to know that their presence is there.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually thank them when I see them. When they ask me, I'll usually thank them. There's one that would see me enough that would come through that park. He was like, "Oh, it's you."
Yeah, I know our friend Miss Kelly King. I don't know if she's on here or not tonight. I know Michael was on here, but we fished a tournament last year down at Brandenburg, and the day before, she got to meet the Indiana DNR because she didn't realize that she had to have a different license.
Yeah. Hopefully, they'll get this whole agreement thing straightened out soon.
Yeah, from what we've been told, it won't be this year. They've got to have attorneys and all that redraw it, and it's going to be quite the task for them. But they're hoping that by next year it'll be back into effect, because it's not just between Kentucky and Ohio; it's with Indiana and all the states that border Kentucky. So I guess it's a bigger deal than we realize.
I generally buy all of them anyway.
Yeah, us too.
Because I'm in this area or that area, if I like to net some bait inside Indiana's creeks, so then I'm gonna have to have that one, you know.
Yeah, Roger Dermott says that you always see West Virginia on the water, and you do. But they take care of their fishery. Like they do a pretty good job down there.
Justin just said, I heard they're not going to enforce it yet.
Cut out. I didn't hear it.
The reciprocal agreement. Kentucky said that they're not going to enforce it yet.
Okay.
They did say that they would give warnings at first, because they said that the problem is that when Ohio printed their regulations book for this year, it still has in that book that there's a reciprocal agreement and you can have an Ohio license and still fish the Ohio River. So they don't feel that they can, fine people for that when it's in our book.
Right. I usually get them all anyway because of just going into different areas inside, just to just make real darn sure.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of to where for a while there, I was just getting Kentucky and not even getting an Ohio license, and just using a Kentucky. But, I don't trust the whole thing, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some people that we'll say they don't understand, some of the wardens possibly. I don't want to run into that person and have to go through it all. And they have the right, if they want to fine you. At this point, how do you fight it?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't get the memo. So I don't play with that stuff.
Jim Butt says he has never been checked, only once. An auxiliary gave me a boat safety sticker.
That's interesting. I was just thinking about that the other day, about pulling out my the fire extinguisher and looking at that. I wonder. I think they have a date on them.
I think they do. I think they do have an expiration date on fire extinguishers. Jeremy Chase, I know conservation isn't a popular topic, but all of you that have YouTube platforms, we need you all to keep discussing this issue, please.
Yeah, that's something I was saying, kind of hinting around at earlier, that I want to better myself with the whole thing and try to bring it up a little more on my channel. I usually, a lot of times when I catch a fish and let it go, I'll kind of bring it up a little bit about, you know, how we like to let these go. And myself, I mean, everyone has a right to eat whatever they want to eat on a fish, however you like them. But if I'm going to have a fish and I'm going to keep one and put it on my grill, it's not going to be bigger than probably 5 or 7 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't myself. I've kept some that were about 13 pounds or so before, and right about there was, I could just feel the difference as soon as I put a blade in that fish, that I wasn't going to like eating it.
Mm-hmm.
And I already knew right then and there that I'm going to cook that fish separate, because I just already know there's something different about this fish than these other two that are like 3 pounds and 5 pounds. And I was right. You know, the flavor of that fish and the texture of that fish was not nearly as nice as the younger ones. And that's my opinion. Now, I hear it all the time and I see it all the time. It's all blown up about, oh, you don't know how to cook them, a 40-pounder, this and that. But to be honest with you, the way this river system's going, I feel guilty. I didn't even keep a fish last year. I'm starting to feel guilty to bring a fish home and enjoy it and eat it. And I see it all over my channel. I have guys that are like, I can feel them yelling at me through my phone when I'm looking at comments. Why you let all them fish go? Why you let all them fish go? It's like, I tell them, I say, you know what? We are pounded to death by commercial fishermen.
A lot of people don't know. They don't get it. Like, they ask us a lot when we live stream too, is, you know, do you eat them? Do you eat them? I'm like, we rarely keep them. It's like, we'll keep one bag in the freezer, which, you know, a gallon-sized bag will feed multiple people, you know, for one cookout. But we don't eat fish that often because we let them go to let them grow. Just, yeah, I think that's one thing that, you know, if you need a meal, by all means, feed your family. But,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a blue cat every once in a while. I do. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times and I tell people, I say, look, you know what? By the time I'm done, if you were out there as many hours as I am fishing on that river and do what I do out there, and it is off camera, the craziness shit that I do out there and all this and that, you're off the hook forever. But by the time I get home, I don't want to cut some fish up.
That's the big debate.
Thing up.
Yeah.
And try to find some cardboard to lay it on and clean that mess up. And then, you know, and then you got it stinking up, this and that. You know, I enjoy a fish. I love putting them on the grill. Real simple too. Just aluminum foil, olive oil, a little bit of blackened seasoning or Cajun seasoning. That's it. Maybe a little hot sauce. Real simple, quick. You know, but man, there's so many times I'm like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. Julie, are you guys fishing while you're out in Missouri?
So, y'all, I tried. I bought my fishing license, and I'm like, I brought several rods, but we couldn't get it out far enough to catch anything with I needed bait. I forgot to take something else, like chicken or whatever. I'm not above chicken. Listen, skipjack is king, but your girl isn't very handy. So we try, I'm like trying to cast it. The only rod I took to catch skipjack is Maddie's, which is a dang Mad Catz rod with a Zebco push button. So it's just going, I'm like trying to whack it out there. It's just like, boop, right in front of me. I'm like, we're not going to catch anything. So I gave up. But I tried for a little while, and then it was like, okay. And no one caught anything down the bank. So I'm like, it'd be a bad day for it anyway. And so we just left. But we didn't bring the boat. I do hope to bring the boat and be able to go out and have somebody that knows what they're doing, like Charlie. take us to the fish somewhere, but my bank days, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But that is in the future. I am trying to like talk myself into going and doing it at home. I'm just so nervous because I'm used to catching, you know?
Yeah. I just wondered because I heard that like commercial fishing, I don't think it's allowed out there, right? Like in Missouri.
I don't know. We did just go do a boat tour today. So we're in St. Louis. If you guys don't know, that's why I'm in a hotel without my little thing. It took a minute for me to get logged on. So anyway, I did see some, like what back home I would assume is maybe like a commercial fishing type boat, just a smaller one, you know, like the John boats and that where they have but I didn't notice them having the buckets in there. There was only a couple that were putting in. But other than that, I saw no other real boats out in the section that we were in. So it's a lot of barges, so right by the arch and whatnot. So, but I didn't see any there. I did say, where can we find the catfish? You know, I just kind of like was joking around because Charlie's brother was with us and whatnot. But yeah, it's a lot different waters down here.
I bet. Dave said it's a delicate thing, trying not to come off as preachy. Yeah, I agree with that. And Julie and I have tried really hard to emphasize that, like every week, about being respectful and that this is not just to bash pay lakes, but it's about getting the regulations so that everybody is treated fairly. So we hope that, you know, even Catfish Steve last week on his show, like that's what he said with us, you know, the more polite you are, the more people will listen to you. If you come off as aggressive and, you know, we hate pay lakes, nobody's going to listen to that. They don't want to hear that. So I think it's all about your approach. Don't you, Julie?
Yeah, I think that it is helpful to, I think from the beginning, knowing that we were going to talk about this topic, I've said it before, maybe not even on camera, but to Ashley, I almost said I can't do this because our area is heavy with commercial fishing. I was nervous about putting ourselves out there for this. And y'all have seen how it can turn into an attack, especially on social media. And I thank God every day that we go live that we've had mostly all respect out of everyone. And that's the thing is if someone was yelling at me, telling me not to live or do or whatever, something I liked and was calling me names over it, I'm probably not going to listen to them. You know, people being rude and hateful. But I think bringing up the educational purposes, we're not here to shut down commercial fishing. We're not here to shut down pay lakes. We're not here to shut down tournament fishing because, you know, in retrospect, some things that I've seen is like, they're like, well, how come y'all just want to make the money off of it, but you don't want us to? And it's like, I don't want to shut anything down. I think that having parameters that make it to where different legalities are in place to protect the resources that we have in these waters and actually have governing bodies in charge of making sure that the laws are being followed is what's necessary. And that's that, you know, everything should be done to the best of our ability to protect the catfish across the board. So I think that having this approach maybe the reason why there hasn't been much in the way of like bashing that I've seen happen on lots of platforms, like with even just like other pages. So yeah, I think
I know like when I've posted it on some of the public pages, like making a reel or posting like an upcoming like podcast, you get the backlash there and you just kind of have to like overlook it. You know, like you might have one negative comment for the 15 positive comments of people that are actually listening. Like you said, if they feel like they're attacked, like they don't even want to hear what we have to say. They just see that we're doing conservation and assume that we're against what they're doing. They don't understand the reasoning behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And there was one when there was a share of one of the posts that I put on there, I think it was just about the legislation aspect of it, was by somebody that does pay lake. And I read some of the comments on that. And one guy said, and brought up a great question. Well, you know, but at the same time, don't you think it's kind of, you know, crazy? I don't remember the words behind what he said, but he did like bring the perspective of, but also, like, have you ever thought about how many they're taking out and how much they're taking out and how often and stuff? And it looked like it was just something that was maybe a friend of these people that had shared this. So, anyway, I was just like, cool, because that's it. We're just wanting to bring education and things that everyone else has already been doing in the background and bringing it to the light, of what this is doing and what it could look like in the future.
A lot of the pay lakes aren't really being honest with the people that are coming there and telling them where the fish are coming from, because I've seen that too. Like when we've shared posts and stuff, they're like, you guys are complaining about fish that are invasive. They're trying to get rid of all of the fish like out east, which thankfully Virginia's governor vetoed that. But like they really think that, they're doing everything by the books. They don't really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Arnold. I don't think commercial catfishing has a place in the Midwest the same way there isn't room for it in bass fishing. That's a good point. We've said that before too, like if this was the bass guys and they were taking out all of the bass to go put in a pay lake, they would be having a fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
James, we really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your perspective and the things that you've seen. If anybody has any questions for him, we've got a few minutes left here. Julie, did you see Jeremy's comment from Missouri? Not in the Missouri River, you can't, but they kill the Mississippi River.
So there is a lot of commercial fishing. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't notice anywhere I was at, but the only 2 times I've kind of really like paid attention to the river itself is the one time where we went somewhere where I don't know that boats can even really access. And then, this other place we were at was tons of barges. So I don't know. Like I said, I saw a couple boats being put in, but that was really it. Oh my goodness. Did you see what Jeremy Chase chasing cats is what I was about to say.
We can get 100 live viewers next week on a show in the next 2 weeks. Chasing Outdoors will give away a drawing for a 10-foot. I don't know how to say that. Julie, help me out. Morada. Net. 3/8 inch net. It's a 200+ net with a warranty. So there you go, guys. There's your challenge. And next week, Julie and I are going to try to get some tournament directors on here. We want to do at least one show with them and talk about conservation with them and what we can do as anglers at these tournaments to do better. We just need to do better. Leaving the fish in a dry tote for weigh-in while we wait it's not acceptable. It's not fair to jump on here and say, we need to regulate commercial fishing. We need to regulate pay lakes, but we have hundreds, and I mean hundreds of anglers that are doing tournament fishing. And you don't think that that's affecting our population? Like, we've got to take some responsibility for that. That's another big comment.
Yeah, I was trying to read that one too. I'm like, what's that say? Do they warn you if you lose it? I had to read that real quick because it was a quick one.
Riley Pingler, there is something called the predator-prey ratio. If there was a prey custom built for large blue cats, it is the Asian carp. Studies show that after 30 inches, they actively seek them out for food. The only reason there isn't a world-class fishery with records much higher than a measly 109 pounds in Indiana and 120 in Kentucky is greed. They won't wipe them out, but the equilibrium, which is reached just not when tens of thousands of pounds of fish are ripped out of the rivers. Yeah.
It got cut off after that.
Aren't catfish the number one predator for Asian carp? Like, haven't we? Didn't Dave tell us that? Have you watched any of his videos, the Dave Oliver?
I myself have not.
He's got some pretty good videos, very informational, very educational.
Yeah.
He has put in a lot of time and work into this conservation effort, and we encourage everybody. There he is. He says 70% of their diet.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll be overrun. Is what'll happen.
Yep.
It could be a whole different ball game. For the state.
I was reading about Asian carp population.
Did you see?
I was reading about Asian carp population the other day, and it says
Sorry.
No.
Go ahead. Finish your statement, then I'll read it to you.
Once they become invasive, they said it's almost impossible to control them because they repopulate so quickly.
Yeah, there's been a couple run-ins with them out here now that I know of from a couple of my friends, and I've actually had a few of them in my net and throwing a cast net. So they're starting up out here, just in this section. They're here. They're not buck wild crazy yet, but there has been a run-in. A couple of my friends have been exploded on by them. So it's beginning.
They're terrible. So this is what the end of that comment says. It's not sustainable. Stomach contents from 68 blue catfish measuring 22 to 40 inches long revealed that adult silver carp were their top prey item in terms of weight. The average age of a silver carp eaten by a blue cat was 3.9 years. According to other studies, female silver carp typically mature at age 3 or 4. That's millions of eggs avoided with each fish.
Yeah.
So back to the net comment, did you see someone said, is it warranted if it's lost? And Jeremy said, yes, you get 50% off if you lose the net, but you must send the handle, line, or as much as you can to get it back. So y'all share this out. That's what we're saying, is share this out. Let's get this seen. We appreciate every one of you guys that have joined us week to week. And if you're new around here and whatnot, but sharing this out on your page is the best way to get more viewers to get this out there and more people educated on the topic. It's David asking where he fishes and where you fish in Indiana. I think is he talking to
James?
Talk to me, James.
Yeah.
Today I was in Aurora and Lawrenceburg area.
Is that typically where you fish if you're in Indiana?
In the winter months, generally almost only.
Gotcha.
For cold months, there's a bunch of trees that I like to fish in. And that area has been beat to death.
Mm-hmm. There's a comment on here asking if we can combine it, and we do have all of our channels combined so we can see the total number of viewers. I know you can't. It depends on which channel you're watching it on, but we do have more than 5 people watching, thankfully.
Yeah.
So if you know of any tournament directors that you would like to see their input, encourage them to get a hold of Julie or I so that we can get things set up for next week. I know we've got one of the local tournament directors that I've very convincingly talked into joining us. Thank you, Mr. Michael King. We appreciate you. Know of anybody else that you think we could hop on here? I would really like to see somebody from King Cat, somebody from Twisted Cat, maybe Mississippi River Monster, some of the bigger tournaments as well. See what they have to say.
And this one comment here is this John Baker, your suggestion, that would be a good idea to bring up and just kind of get thoughts on that. But if you really want to protect the fish that you catch in tournaments, look into how they do them with kayak fishing. This isn't the first time we've had this suggestion. So you use a sticker that you're given in the morning. Measurements are taken and recorded through pictures and uploaded into the app. We've also talked about how we participate in virtual tournaments as well, where you just do the weigh-in right there on your live. So there's different options that can be discussed. So Michael, what did you see his comment?
Yeah. That's a nice try. We already had this conversation. You're already hooked in. Sorry about what'd Travis say? By convincing, do you mean threaten him? No, there was no threat.
Oh. And then Jeremy, can we get more than one on at a time? That's a great question. I don't know. We gotta get some directors willing to.
Yeah, I think it would be great to have a few of them come on together and kind of bounce ideas off each other and like how they do things. I think that would be a great idea. What do you think? If we can convince them to come on, the problem is getting them to commit to it.
Yeah. Jeremy said Alex.
Yeah, we will try our best to get a hold of these folks.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, well, we're going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you, Mr. James, for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about the first half, you guys. Finally, the kids came back with everybody and grabbed the dog for me. But then the one starts knocking on the window. I'm like, so I'm sorry about the first half. Oh, and this says, River Lunacy out to dinner. Will this be posted later? What is it? Love River Lunacy out to dinner. Will this be? Yes, this will still be available on YouTube and Facebook on Last Call and Run and Gun Catfishing. So you can definitely.
And there's a question about DNR. I have tried a couple of times to get Ohio DNR, and what I was told was they are not allowed to come online and talk due to the restrictions of their job. So we have to be respectful of that. That's why we try to share as much information as we can that they've given us, but we try to leave names out just because we don't want them to be bombarded and lose our contacts.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching. And like I said, if you have any suggestions for us on tournament directors for next week, get a hold of Julie or I. We appreciate you all watching, and be sure to take Jeremy up on his offer there. So there's 25 people that watched tonight. So if each one of you would share this out 10 times, that gets us way over our 100 views. So have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.